So YouTube is telling me that this is my 800th video, if you can believe it, after all these years. And I wanted to do something a little special with my 800th video. Maybe I'll do something even bigger with my 1000th video. But for right now, I wanted to take the opportunity to do a video that I've been kind of planning to do for a long time and just never really got around to it. And I figured, well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to do that. So I want to talk about and have a little bit of a conversation about ratings when it comes to albums. And some people do it, but I'm seeing quite a number of YouTube reviewers kind of doing away with the whole album rating whenever they're reviewing albums, like Mark from Spectrum Pulse has done away with it. Crash Thompson has done away with it. Stretching across the pond into like movie reviews, like Chris Stuckman has done away with movie review, like assigned numerical ratings. And I totally understand why these individuals are doing it. I totally get their frustration when it comes to having to put a alphanumeric value on art. And I mean, it's so hard to rate and rank and grade art, like the only way that you can really do that is to see how well they met the assignment, like did they accomplish what they set out to do? And unless you're the artist yourself, you can't really do that. You can't go into the artist's mind and say, was this what I was hoping to accomplish? Now, I totally respect and I get those who do, because there's a pro and con whenever you're coming to the table with a rating system. As a consumer of media, specifically reviews and criticisms of media, I do like a rating. I do like a kind of a synthesized, distilled essence of how the reviewer, the critic felt about the project. I kind of like having that to hang on to, like a very synthesized rounding of ideas. Like, this is how I feel about it on a scale of whatever it is that they decide to do. Because I find that very useful as a consumer. But I also can sympathize with those reviewers who feel like, as an audience, that's all we're looking for. We're just looking for that numerical value. It doesn't really matter what the context is of that. And I will also fully admit to being one of those people that sometimes I'll just wait and kind of zone out of a review until I get to the actual rating of it. So I get it. I totally get it. But that's also doing a disservice to the reviewer. They put out all this time to give me their thoughts and I'm not even paying attention to it. So again, I can see both sides of the whole thing. So what I did with my rating system, because I still have a full rating system, is how would I ideally consume this media? I kind of stole this from a conglomeration of, like, way back in the day, there was a movie review channel called The Spill. Right now, I think it's like Double Toasted or something along those lines. And I love their rating systems, specifically for movies. Would you pay full price to go to a movie? Would you go to the matinee? Would you just wait for it to be a rental when that used to be a thing in, like, physical stores? And it was like the application of it, like, how would I consume it? And so I kind of used that as a jumping off point. How would I actually sit down to consume this product? Is it enough that I would want to shell out money for? And if I were, how much money would I shell out for that? And along with this, at the end of the day, I also take the kind of Dan Merle approach to ratings, where is it a recommend or is it not? It's the Siskel and Ebert's thumbs up, thumbs down. And in that respects, I kind of have a little bit of a Venn diagram to those that, like, I would recommend, those that I wouldn't recommend, and those that are like, you gotta be very, I guess, like, selective on who you recommend this to, because obviously if you're not a big fan of a particular musical style, I wouldn't recommend that to you. But sometimes an album is so good that there might be something that you might find out of it. So in that case, I kind of have like this little bit of a Venn diagram of these two big clusters of would I recommend this and would I not recommend this. And so as you kind of go through, the Venn diagram gets more and more to one side or another. It's kind of like gender, right? It's a spectrum. What I wanted to do here is just kind of maybe not explain my ratings, but just kind of give a little bit more context to what it actually means. Even though I decisively picked self-evident words and rating styles for all these, but for those who want to know, this was kind of what I was hoping for. So the first two are definitely the not recommend, right? So you've got, and there's only been one record that has ever received this, but The Abomination to My Ears. That's the worst. Like, that's in the negatives. Like, if this was like a 5-star review, this would have no stars. I would find a way to edit the algorithm to allow me to give no stars. And then there's obviously Skip, and I've given Skip to a lot of albums. And this actually comes to a bigger issue, kind of an issue, when it comes to my rating styles, because generally I don't listen to music that I don't want to listen to. Unlike other reviewers who listens to a myriad of different styles and genres and will listen to albums that probably aren't going to sound all that great. Luckily, with metal and progressive rock and like the albums that I choose to review, there are albums that I have a feeling I'm going to like, you know, and I won't sit down and talk about an album that I don't want to listen to because I won't listen to it enough to have and formulate an articulate review of it. So generally, I don't give The Abomination to My Ears or Skip a whole lot of credit because I don't listen to that. I'd probably give those a lot more if I were to listen to a lot more of musical styles and genres, but that ain't me. What I do give quite often, though, is the kind of center of the Venn diagram between the recommend and don't recommend, and that's stream. I do use stream quite a bit, and stream is just like if you've got your access to a streaming service like YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, if you're still using Spotify, like any of those, then just jump on, and the only thing that it costs is your time. So like this is at the point where it's like it's not really investing in the album at all. I didn't have as much of a good time as I wanted to, but maybe you'll find it out. So it's like a very, very, very soft recommendation. It's like, it's inoffensive, right? Like it's not one that I would actively say, do not listen to. It's just one that I'm like, it's fine, right? So I give stream quite a bit of my time within the reviews. I'm always like, yeah, it's a stream, you know? I don't have a whole lot to say about it, so there you go. Now, from there, it's kind of the varying degrees of recommendations, starting with download. And download is one of those, like if you have access to Bandcamp, if you have access to, it used to be like when I first started off when you could actually buy albums on iTunes. I think you can still do that, but I don't know. This would be like the download. And, you know, those albums would be anywhere between $3 to maybe $10. And in that case, that's where I'm like, okay, I would recommend shelling out some money for that. Again, and this was back in the day when you would have music on your computer. I still kind of do, and I know that a lot of people still do. And so in that case, it's like, yeah, have it on your computer. This isn't just like a stream where if you listen to it once, you're not taking up any kind of like real estate on your computer or hard drive or anything like that. But for a download, it's like, yeah, it's good enough to kind of be in the rotation. You know, I might listen to it once a year, but it will be an album that I'll come back to. So that's kind of where I'm at for a download. And after that, you get into the actual physical format. And that's where it's pick it up in physical format. You know, go to a record store and buy it in the physical format. I have a whole bunch of my collection here. And so that's kind of where it is there. You know, this will actually take up physical real estate. And these albums are anywhere, again, between like 15. I've seen albums go up towards like $80, you know? So again, be your own judge in that case. But typically you're looking between anywhere between like $10 to maybe $30. And that's kind of the limit for that case. Now, from there, I actually had to create one. Now, I created it pretty early on in my rating system, but for the longest time, I didn't have this one. And that is, I Love It With My Whole Heart. Because I needed something between just pick it up in physical format where I'm going to listen to it quite often. I'll keep it in a rotation to a full-on masterpiece. Because I felt like I was splitting hairs a little too much with physical format and masterpiece. So that's why I created this kind of in between. This would be like an A. This would be like a 9 out of 10. And most of the time it's something lacking rather than something on the album that is actively holding it back. And then masterpiece is the 10 out of 10. It's the A++. It's the one that goes above and beyond. It's like I've purposefully held off giving the masterpiece status to a number of albums, and I feel like I would much rather err on the side of caution by giving an album I love it with my whole heart and then retroactively giving it the masterpiece status, and I've done that a couple of times, rather than diluting the masterpiece. So each year I maybe would give one or two of these out, and I remember there have been a couple of years where I haven't given it out at all, because I really do want to keep that masterpiece status for those albums that I have to recommend to everybody, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at for that. And that's kind of how I rank albums. You know, if this were like the thumb meter, it would be like a rather than an episodic kind of a thing. And so, yeah, I kind of just synthesized a whole bunch of other people's systems to my own. And at the end of the day, what I really wanted to do was create a system where everybody knew what the rating meant. Which is why I never really felt like I had to do that, because nobody's ever really reached out to me and been like, hey, what does your rating style ever actually mean? Nobody's ever done that. So I feel like either people aren't paying attention or I'm doing my job. Oh boy. Okay. So that's a fun note to end on, but that's kind of where I'm at for that. And I hope that you find my rating system useful. I do feel as though, I don't know, I've been using it now for over 7 years, so I must be doing something right with it. I've never felt like I really needed to improve it at any point. I never felt like I ever needed to tweak it. I really honestly do feel as though this is the best thing that matches for me, because at no point do I ever really feel like, is this a 9? Is this a 10? Is this a 6? Is this a 7? I just kind of think to myself, what would I do with this? You know, would I buy this in physical format? Would I download this onto my computer? Would I just kind of skip it? You know, I would always just kind of think, what would I do with this? And that's the rating that I end up giving. So yeah, I hope you find this useful. This was just kind of a fun little video that I wanted to make for my 800th video. So there you go, just something a little bit different. And yeah, I think that's going to be about it, because I've got like 5 or 6 album reviews that I need to do, but that's all I've got for now. I hope to see you in another 800 and another 200, and I have my 1000th video, so I have to think about what I want to do for that. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best, and until next time, notes out.